All right, guys, I just got done doing a dry break-in on this engine for Evan. Nothing that's super fantastic as far as that goes. But I wanted to show how to prime a fuel system on one of these. Now, basically all the P-pump 12 valves are identical for the most part, other than the fuel filter housing sometimes is different. But that really doesn't really matter to actually priming the fuel system. So I'm just going to give you a quick rundown on how to do it. I figured I got this thing here. I just primed this system, and because we did a run-in on it. And a couple tricks and tips for you guys that do have, some tooling and stuff like that. Sometimes if you don't have tooling, that can be a little bit more difficult if you're having priming issues and all that jazz. So something that I do like to do myself is I like to fill the fuel filters on these. Now, one thing is that with this type of fuel filter, it's kind of a pain. There's more than one way to do it, but I'll give you a couple different scenarios for you guys that are interested. So if it just has a thread-on style fuel filter, they're pretty easy. Basically, take something, fill the hole in the middle of the filter. I don't have a filter just sitting here handy. I'll put a picture right here. So in the very middle hole, you don't want to put fuel. You want to put it on the outside. Reason for that is that is unfiltered fuel that will be going directly into your fuel system. Now, if the fuel that you have is perfectly clean, then you can put it in there. It doesn't matter. I just don't never trust anything, so that's just the way that I do it if you're filling fuel filters. And on these, I usually do. If you have a fast unit or a lift pump, electric lift pump or something, you don't have to completely. You're talking apples and oranges to doing your priming on your system. But I like to fill the fuel filter. Now, if this isn't a fresh system, usually if you fill the fuel filter, you prime. So this is your primer. Basically, you want to pump that until you hear this noise. Hear that squeak? And basically what that is the fuel is going through the system and it is going by your overflow valve. That squeak is your overflow valve opening up a little bit. If you have that, you have fuel at the injection pump. I still usually like to 10, 15 pumps after you hear that because it flushes any of the air that's in the injection pump out. Now, if you have to still prime the actual injection pump itself or the lines and stuff, usually what I do is I'll prime it up there. What I do is I loosen off at least 3 of your lines, pump it about 10 or 15 times, roll it over about 10 revolutions, close all your lines, pump it another 10 times, and then try to start it. You'll have to give it some throttle input, but usually it'll start. If you've just changed the fuel filter, if you fill that and pump that 10 times, and as soon as you hear that squeal noise, usually what I do is jump in the truck. As soon as you get the truck to start up, get the truck, as soon as the truck starts up, bring the RPM up. Bring the RPM up to about like 11 to 1500 RPM, in that range. And the truck will usually cough and sputter and spit a little bit, and then it'll take off and away it'll go. It'll be fine. Now, if you're having a problem with the system not wanting to prime, whether it be a P pump or a VE, I will do another video on one of these. Actually, something else. If you're having a hard time, before you try the next trick, what you can do is just loosen off your overflow valve and pump your lift pump, your primer right there. And if that primer is leaking, that's a pretty good indication there's a problem there. It should not leak. So if that's leaking, replace your lift pump. And if you can get fuel to come out of here, sometimes, especially if you've modified the overflow valve and it's like really high on the scale, sometimes you can't get the fuel to bypass past that. So if you can't, just try that trick. You can just open that valve up just a little bit, or not the valve, the banjo bolt, just unthread it a bit. So there's a gap between your washer and your fitting, and then just prime away. Yes, you will leak a little bit of fuel on the ground. Put a pan under there if you're worried about it. So now, if you've tried all that, still can't get it to go, what I usually do, and you do need some tools. You need some tools. So you guys probably actually watched me in the video. What I did was I took this vacuum filler or sucker, whatever you want to call it. So you can use it for sucking and filling. As soon as you use it for sucking, you shouldn't use it for filling. But that works for more than one thing. Anyways, after you use that, or if you're going to use that, basically what you have to do is put that on your return line. So the return line for me is easy because it's just in this little pail, right? you just stuff it on there and you put a vacuum on the system and prime away, prime away. Sometimes you roll it over a little bit. You know, you'll roll it over a little bit and prime, but you have to keep pumping on that. It doesn't need to be one of those. Anything that has a vacuum source that you can put fluid into works just fine. Basically, you're just putting a vacuum on the system so that it's promoting you to pull fuel through it, right? So just that's for that little tip. Now another one, because I know a lot of guys are not going to have something to suck a vacuum with. Another one you can do, now you need an air compressor and a buddy to do this. So yeah, if you take, obviously there's no gas door or no filler neck on this yet because I haven't put it in, but if you use compressed air and put your compressed air in there, you need to use, like I said, you do need to have a friend and an air compressor to do this, but I imagine most of you guys that are running around with these trucks, I realize not everybody, lots of you guys are gonna have it. So air blower, and what I do is you just take a few rags or an old t-shirt, you jam it in there around the air blower, and you wanna put some pressure on it. You don't wanna put crazy pressure on it. You only want like 2 PSI or you can blow shit up. So don't blow shit up. If you hear the tank expanding, that's lots. Because you'll actually hear the tank going boo boo kind of idea. And then obviously if you're doing it, you make sure there's fuel in the tank. So pretty simple to do. I don't know if there's anything else. Something that I did want to mention to you guys, if you're having a hard time with this, sometimes rolling it over too does make a difference. So lots of times what I'll do is if you can't get it to prime, yeah, especially on the VE and P pump, but if you can't get it to prime, just roll it over a little bit and try it again. Roll it over a little bit, try it again. Like I'm talking like 2 seconds rolling over, because if you're on the full lift of the lobe, sometimes these pumps won't pump. I think the VE ones actually won't at all. The primer doesn't work. But for the most part, the old style fuel pumps, I think most guys aren't running them anymore. Anyway, I realize there is some guys, but. So hopefully that helps you guys out. Like, subscribe, hit me down in the comments, and remember, it's not rocket science.